Thank you for everybody for coming tonight. I'm very excited to be hosting this event, and that one of our alumnus, Michael McCann, is the host of this wonderful event. And I just think it's a fun night together, and we're super excited about this being part of the kind of budding young professionals association at Roosevelt University. So my name is Jessica Mueller. I'm this Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. And thank you for joining us tonight. We have the Director of Alumni Engagement, Christy Kotek, also on the call tonight. I don't know if you can see her in the gallery view, but we're the intentions of this association is to not only increase networking among our young professionals, but we really feel like it's a value-added opportunity for our graduates to further promote their degree and what they're doing in life, and it gives them a spotlight. And I know many of our graduates are doing just amazing things in their community. So we're very happy to have Michael tonight here, who's a 2011 education graduate and now business owner, advanced professional sommelier at his award-winning beer bar, Vacillate Wine and Beer Bar in Miami, Florida. I do hear that flights to Florida are very reasonable right now, so go and see him. And he has an extensive knowledge and background in wine, and has worked with some of the best restaurants in Miami and Chicago, and now has his own business, which is amazing. And then you worked in a variety of workplace settings, from being an elementary teacher to college professor, and now you have a business owner, which is a great evolution, and I think really indicative of how powerful a Roosevelt degree can be, because you can start someplace and continue to evolve as a human and take what you've learned along the way and really be successful wherever you land. So tonight he's lending his talents to us and knowledge about wine. And we're going to go through some of the basics of wine tasting, how to hold your glass, what to look for, using your sense of smell. Hopefully no one has COVID and has lost their sense of smell tonight or taste. And then proper tasting techniques. And after the presentation, we can network for a while and enjoy your favorite drinks and enjoy each other's company. So without further ado, I wanted to welcome Michael. Thank you so much again for being here with us tonight. And yay. Yeah. Props to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll turn it over.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I see a lot of friendly faces. Thanks for coming out. My name's Michael McCann. As she said, I'm a sommelier and wine bar owner in Miami. I am going to attempt to sort of share my slides here, so give me a second. We tried it before everyone came in, but All right. We good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, thank you for coming. This is Tasting Wine Like a Sommelier. It's a bit of a class, but I want it to be kind of laid back. It is kind of dense. We're going to go over some particular stuff that you might not have seen before or know about wine, but it's a lot of fun. If you have any questions, feel free. There's kind of a lot of people, so we're going to do questions at the end, or throw them in the chat. Jessica said she's going to kind of monitor the chat for us for questions. Like she said, I'm Michael McCann. I used to be a 5th grade teacher as well as a professor. I then, tumbled, I like to say, into wine. I started taking the sommelier courses and I became a sommelier. I'm now an advanced sommelier and I own a wine bar in Miami. So that's a little bit about me. It kind of gives me a really interesting background and sort of ability. Last year, when COVID came and I had to shut my restaurants and was looking for other ways to still stay engaged with customers and guests and clients and things, I moved online just like everybody else and started giving these Zoom wine tastings. So you guys are not my first, sorry. But you know, I've done a couple of these. They're a lot of fun. Every time I have so much fun with these and answering people's questions and talking about wine because that's something that I love to do. Let's see. So as far as today, we're going to do some proper tasting technique using your senses, colors, aromas, flavors of wine, finish and overall balance. And then at the end, I have some cool stuff for you, wine myths, wine gadgets, some of my recommendations, and other fun stuff along the way. We had kind of said, please ask questions, throw them in the chat. Jessica said she was going to monitor the chat, and we'll kind of take a look at your questions at the end. So let's begin. Open up your wines. I'm not really going to tell you, you know, drink this, drink that. Everyone kind of has different wines. But as far as the wines that you do have, I have them next. Yeah. So we had asked, you know, if you were able to go to wine.com and get this little 3-pack of wines, California wines that are Chardonnay, a Cabernet Sauvignon, and a Zinfandel. I ordered it from wine.com and only got the Zinfandel. And so hopefully other people had more success with that. They sent me like 2 stand-ins for the Chardonnay and the Cabernet Sauvignon, but you know, I'm gonna do a lot of talking. So I have my Zinfandel open and I'm drinking my Zinfandel and I'm a happy camper anyway. When you're looking at these wines, California wines, specifically the Chardonnay, it's going to be dry, buttery, oaky. These are typical characteristics for Chardonnay. The Cabernet Sauvignon, you know, black cherry and black currant fruit flavors we're kind of looking for and are typical of California cabs. And Zinfandel, dark fruit, high alcohol, which makes Zinfandel my favorite. Here's me in the vineyards in California. There's some Zinfandel off to the left here. I was picking, I don't know, something else. I picked some grapes right out of the vineyard and ate them. They're kind of gross. They do not taste like table grapes. They are like really bitter and acidic. It's better to wait for the wine to be done. And this is just like, you know, boots in the vineyard kind of thing. So when you're looking at wine, we always say that you need to use your senses, all of your senses. So you're going to look, you're going to smell, you're going to taste. And I love this little graphic here. You're going to look, smell, taste, and think. Think about the wine, think about what you're drinking, think about where it came from. You know, and that's really part of the enjoyment of wine is for me, what got me hooked was how many different sort of disciplines there are involved in wine. You know, wine is a journey in not just drinking the wine, but it's a journey in geography, in language, in history, and there's so much that you can learn about a wine and where it comes from. So when you're looking, you want to look at the label. What's the producer? What's the name of the wine? So I have the Zinfandel. I have the McManus Zinfandel. It comes from Lodi in California. And the grape variety is Zinfandel. Oops. And the vintage, that's the year. So the one I have is a 2019. So it's a 2019 Zinfandel from Lodi, California. I actually haven't even tasted it yet, so I'm going to take a pause. It's good. I like it. Hopefully you're enjoying your wine as well. So as sommeliers, we kind of give a rating. This sort of comes more from my teaching background. This is a rubric for those of you who don't know. But I came up with this rubric. We don't necessarily do this as sommeliers, but if you were to give a grade to the wine, this is kind of how I would recommend you do it. Appearance, give it 3 points. What does it look like? What are the colors? The aroma, the bouquet, what does it smell like? That would be worth 6 points. Taste, again, 6 points. The finish or the aftertaste, 3 points. And give it a score for overall balance. How do you like the wine? Is it good? Well balanced? Do all of these things work together to create a good wine? I'm a big fan of infographics, so I have a ton of infographics for you. I apologize if you're not an infographic person. So taking a look at today's wines, they come from California. Here's a California map of wine regions. And then here's a sort of close-up of the North Coast, which includes Sonoma, Napa Valley. I believe Lodi is on here in the middle. So the Chardonnay, if you have the one that we had said, it comes from Monterey. And Monterey is south of San Francisco. It's sort of in the green down here near San Jose. Dry, very dry, buttery, oaky, that's the style. The Cabernet Sauvignon, it didn't really say where that one was coming from. I couldn't get a good read on exactly where. It might be sourced from all over California, a bunch of different places. And the Zinfandel comes from Lodi, which, if you look on the zoomed out version, is right here. Close to Napa, actually closer to Sacramento than San Francisco. Lodi is a really great area for Zinfandel. I advanced this without, but that's okay. Chardonnay. I really like these Wine Folly infographics. So when you're drinking Chardonnay, it's going to be dry, medium body. We'll talk about that a little more, body and tannin and acidity in a minute here. The flavors, yellow apple, star fruit, pineapple, butter, oak, toast, baking spices. These are all different flavors and aromas from Chardonnay, that specifically the Chardonnay that's in front of you.
Michael, someone said that the Deloach is from Oakville.
Oakville. Do you want me to go back?
And I had a question. The closer you are to water, does that affect the grape quality or
That's a fantastic
taste?
question. Yeah, so water is absolutely an effect of on the quality of the grapes as well as the wine. So water has a cooling effect. So cool air will blow off the water. And it also has a warming effect in that sunlight will reflect off the water and into the vineyards. So there's a lot of examples of vineyards being near water, and that is by design, either to get the reflection of the more light, to get the fruit to open up and really mature more, or to be in a place that benefits from the cooling effect of the water. It could be both or either or. So we had said Oakville, that is in Sonoma. So all kind of in the same area here. Were there other ones? Other questions, or keep going?
Not yet.
Okay, beautiful. So the Cabernet, when you're drinking Cabernet, typically black cherry, black currant flavors, cedar, baking spices again, typically very dry, full body, medium tannin. Zinfandel, on the other hand, is similar, But you're looking at blackberry, strawberry, very high alcohol, usually 15% alcohol in Zinfandel, and that's because it's from a hot climate typically. And the warmer the climate, the more sugar that concentrates in the grapes, vis-a-vis the more alcohol that they're able to get into the finished product. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more here.
Hey, just quick question. I'm just wondering, because Zinfandel, you always hear about old vines. How does that impact the flavor? Is that standard? Because I feel like I hear that a lot with red Zin.
Yeah, a lot of Zinfandels state that they come from old vines. I don't have a good answer for this other than a more mature plant will give you better fruit. So the older the vines, the better. In the beginning of their life, they're not going to give you very much fruit. And then actually at the end of their life, they don't give you very much fruit either. But the older, the better. The more mature, the longer they've been around, the better. So usually when they have vineyards that have a good age, they'll write that on the bottle. And on the bottle, they'll say old vines. Typically Zinfandel, but it really could be anything. I've seen it on labels for all kinds of different wines that say old vines. I sell a wine at my wine bar called 50 Plus, and that's a Grenache, and it's from vines that are 50 years old and more. So that's why they call it 50 Plus, is because it's from old vines that are 50 years old or more.
Michael, can you explain what a tannin is?
Sure. We're gonna go into it a little bit later. Can I hold on that one?
Yeah, of course.
So for proper tasting, when you're looking at doing a tasting more formally, like a sommelier might do, you want to open up the bottle and check for unpleasant smells. It could be a sign that there's something wrong. If something doesn't smell right, it could be wrong. Pour a small amount into the glass. Hold the glass against a white background if you have like a white napkin or countertop or something like that, to really give it a good look, like the people in the picture are here. You want to hold it firmly by the stem and swirl the wine without spilling it all over yourself. Place it next to your nose and give it a good sniff. Take a mouthful and roll it around your mouth and drink the wine. See if your palate confirms what you were smelling on the nose. I do what I call the Janice Robinson. I'm gonna stop sharing here and show you. Does everybody see me? Okay. So Janice Robinson's kind of a famous wine writer, and what she has always recommended when you're tasting and smelling is to leave your mouth open when you smell. So if you taste it to the side, it's hard because of the background. But if you put it up at an angle to your mouth, then you're gonna breathe in through your mouth and your nose, because that if you use your whole olfactory system, meaning your nose and your mouth when you're smelling, you're going to get a better whiff of the wine and a better idea of what's going on inside the glass. So rather than just putting your nose in it, which is kind of weird, put it up against your mouth and breathe in through your mouth and nose to really experience the wine better. Okay. I see everybody doing it. Awesome. You guys are a wonderful audience. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. I think Tannin is coming up soon. Oh, old world, new world. These are things you've probably heard of before. So what is old world, new world? Old world refers to wine that is made in Europe, typically. They're lighter in body, more traditional wines, more structure driven, these types of wines. The old world wines are based on the place that they come from, and that's what you're going to see on the label. You're not going to see the varietal, meaning the type of wine, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, etc. You're going to see the place, like Bordeaux, like Barolo, like Chianti. These are all places, and that's the name of the wine because that's the place it comes from. New World wines are typically more fruity and modern and varietal driven. So the opposite, they're more into the variety of wine, Pinot Noir, Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, etc., meaning that they're labeled with an emphasis on the grape variety and not as much on the place that they come from. So color comes from the grape skins. So the deep colored red wine is either young or made with ripe grapes or thick skinned grapes. The longer you leave the wine on its skins, the more color it gets. Thin skinned grapes give less color. White wines can range from a pale straw color to a slightly green in color to a really deep golden yellow. So today's Chardonnay is going to be that deep golden yellow, but I'm sure you've had other white wines like a Pinot Grigio or a Sauvignon Blanc that are pale straw color or even almost transparent even. White wines will deepen in color as they age, and the opposite is true for red. They will lose their color as they age. The browner the wine, regardless of red or white, shows the age of the wine. So wines that are older will start to get, I like to call it like a rust or a burnt orange color. The next slide, yeah, beautiful. So if you look all the way on the right here, the old wine has sort of like a orangey, browny orange color. It's not bad. It's just that that's what happens as wines age. So they will, reds will start to lose their color, and both reds and whites will get sort of a browny orange type color. We're probably looking today at our Chardonnay somewhere in the middle here of like a deep golden yellow. My Zinfandel that I have is pretty purpley. That's kind of a sign that it's a younger wine, and it is. It's only a 2019. That's not that old. It will get darker, but Zinfandel is also a kind of purpley grape, just like Malbec, and that's just characteristic of the grape itself. The Cabernet that you have, I don't have one in front of me, but the Cabernet that you have could be sort of more like this one, a sort of a paler red, or it could be very dark red. It kind of just depends. It's probably more dark red, dark purple. So when you're smelling the wine, you want to use your senses, your sense of smell. Stick your nose in it, give it a good smell. What do you smell? Fruitiness, intensity, wood, oakiness, maturity. I have another graphic. Beautiful. So these are all of them. So you could be smelling citrus, like lemon, lime. You could be smelling, like we had talked about earlier, pineapple. With the red wines, raspberry, blackcurrant, strawberry. Now, all these berries and things that we're listing, they're not actually in there. The only thing that's in there is grapes. It's just wine, but wine is a kind of interesting product in that it has all of these smells, aromas, and tastes that remind us of other things. You could have floral wines even. I have had some really nice floral wines. Typically they're white wines where you can get like an orange blossom or a rose, kind of like rose water smelling wine that are really nice. If you look on the other side where it's saying maturation in oak barrel, now, when you age the wines in oak, the oak will impart flavor on the wine. So you can get these sort of almond, hazelnut, pine, cedar, oak flavors to the wine. The Chardonnay you have should be pretty oaky and give you an idea. And then also we call it baking spices like clove, cinnamon, nutmeg, think Christmas cookies, those kinds of things that comes from the oak. And I always like to point out the wine faults. If you have any of these, no bueno, it's not good. Nail polish remover, vinegar, dump that wine, it's bad. Horse sweat, onion, yeah, these are not good. So that's a bad wine. Either the cork has failed or something has happened. It hasn't been transported well, what have you. So when you taste, here's where we're going to get to the tannin. So how sweet is the wine? How dry is the wine? How much acidity? How much tannin? So the acid, I'm going to go back. So the acid comes directly from the grapes. We're going to get to it on another slide here. I thought it was next. That comes from the grape. The tannin comes from the seeds and the stems of the grape. So the tannin is what makes you kind of have a dry sensation in your mouth. I say it kind of sticks to your teeth. That's the tannin. The acidity is what makes your mouth water. So when you're tasting, here's a Cabernet Sauvignon on the side, black cherry, black plum. You're looking for fruit, you're looking for oak. And then we also talk about primary, secondary, and tertiary flavors. This one's a bit intense, but very basically, primary flavors come from the grape itself. Secondary happens in the winery, wine choices that the winemaker makes. And tertiary flavors come from the aging of the wine. So I've got a bunch of them here. I'll kind of give you a second to take a look at these, and then I'll go into it a little more. So the primary flavors, those are like the fruit flavors that come directly from the wine. Secondary flavors, today's wine, we have a California Chardonnay. California Chardonnays, they do a process called malolactic fermentation. And that is something that happens in the winery, and that gives it that buttery, dairy kind of flavor to it. That is a secondary because that's a choice that the winemaker makes. They don't have to make it that way. They choose to make it that way. It's kind of here in the middle with the dairy, the butter. It actually has Chardonnay listed. That sort of butteriness to the Chardonnay is a secondary flavor. And then tertiary, those come from the aging, the oak, the spice, the baking spices, all of those things. This says stewed fruit, but I would update that to say like jammy fruit, rather than tasting fresh strawberry, tasting strawberry jam. So those kind of come from the aging, whether it's aged in bottle or aged in oak barrels. So that's kind of where you can get all of these flavors and aromas coming from. So tannins and body. Tannins make the mouth feel dry while the acids make the mouth water. We talked about this a little bit. The tannins come from the seeds and the stems of the grape, and the acidity from the grape itself. So body. This one is very confusing for people at times. The body of the wine is best described in a metaphor, and I'll give it to you right now. Think about milk. Milk comes in low fat, 1%, 2%, whole milk, and it's arranged. So if you sort of think about what milk tastes like in your mouth for a minute, whole milk fills your mouth more than say 1% or low fat milk fills your mouth. This is body. So the body of the wine, is the wine in front of you more a whole milk wine, or is it more of a low fat milk wine? That's kind of the best way to explain body. And it comes from the alcohol. So wines that are higher in alcohol are fuller bodied. So like my Zinfandel that I have right now at 15%, this is as full as it gets. This is as whole milk as it gets. So you look for body and tannin when you're tasting a wine. The Chardonnay is probably more in the middle for body, and the Cabernet probably middle to high in body as well. Something low in body would be like a Pinot Grigio or a Sauvignon Blanc. We don't have those today, but those are like examples of a lighter bodied wine. So
Michael, when someone says a wine has legs, what does that mean?
That's awesome. I love this audience because they keep asking questions that are coming up on the next slide.
Oh, they must have seen this.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna put that one on hold too. I have a slide about legs. Like 2 to 3 slides from now. So I'm almost finished with the proper tasting here, and then we'll get to some of the more fun stuff. So, we kind of talked about this one anyway. This is what you're looking for when you're tasting the flavors, the sweetness, the dryness, the acidity, tannin, the body, the balance, and the finish. So the finish is the aftertaste. How long do those pleasant flavors last in your mouth? That's what we sommeliers call the finish. The longer they last, the better the wine. Now that's just the pleasant flavors, you really want to have a well-balanced, what we call a well-balanced wine that has a nice long finish where you're still sort of enjoying the wine a little bit, even after you've swallowed it and drank it. All right, so here's some of the more fun stuff. Common misconceptions about wine. I'll give you kind of a second to look at it. There are a couple of misconceptions. I'm going to go over the legs after this. So most people say white wine should be served ice cold. Well, not exactly. White wine should be served at about 49 to 55 degrees. If it's too cold, all of those pleasant aromas and tastes, they're not going to be there. And most people say red wine should be served at room temperature. Well, not really. Red wine should be served at about 62 to 68 degrees. But I have a really good way to help you with this. So if you have your white wines in the fridge, take it out of the fridge 20 minutes before you're going to serve it. So let it sit on the counter for 20 minutes and kind of warm up just a little bit before you serve it to guests at a dinner party or whatever, if it's just you alone on a Saturday night. And then the opposite for red wines, which I did today as well. Put it into the fridge for 20, 30 minutes and then then take it out and it's going to be chilled down enough to drink it. Now, I live in Miami, so 62 to 68 degrees on the red wine is never the room temperature that I'm able to get. If you're in Chicago, I know I live there. It's really, really cold. You probably can get to that figure, especially now in January for your red wines, but I can never do it. I always have to put my red wine in the fridge for a little bit to get it to cool down. So red wine will give you a horrible headache. This one, I get this a lot. A lot of people come into my bar like, oh, I don't drink red wine. It gives me headaches. Like all alcoholic drinks, drinking alcohol will lead to dehydration. So if you're not drinking enough water while you're consuming wine, it'll give you headaches. That's where the headaches comes from. And then you should let your wine breathe in the bottle. You do want to let your wine breathe, but just taking the cork out and leaving it in the bottle is not going to really do that for you. The wine bottle is designed not to let any air in, so that's not really going to do anything for you. If you want to let it breathe, to oxygenate it, you need to use a decanter. You need to pour it into a decanter of some type to get the oxygen in there. Just taking out the cork's not really going to do anything for you.
And Michael, say you don't finish the whole bottle of wine and you have some left over. Or like me, I bought that like cube of wine that lasts a really long time. Do you keep that in your fridge? Do you keep it on the counter?
Yeah, so once it's open, you can go ahead and store it in the fridge. That's really best because it's gonna go bad faster out on the counter. But you need to get to that wine within like 2 to 4 days. After that, it's pretty much gonna go bad, except for your box example. The box will be fine.
It's
So
good to know.
yeah, the box will be just fine. The box is designed, if you've ever taken one out, and I've certainly never taken one out and played slap the bag. If you take it out, there's a plastic bag inside that doesn't allow any oxygen to get to the wine. It just shrinks as you take wine out of it. So it's basically like leaving. It's basically like a new bottle every time because they don't allow it to have access to air. Okay.
Michael, sorry, one other thing. There's some questions about what slapping the bag means.
Oh, I should not have done that.
And what about the spout decanters when you pour? Sorry, Alyssa, if you wanna say what you mean by that, but
that like the things you pour when you're pouring the wine out, the things you like put into the opening of the wine bottle that's supposed to like oxygenate it. Does that do anything?
Oh yeah, there's some really good products on the market that will help you to oxygenate like that. I'm gonna show you one in a minute here when I get to Mike's wine gadgets. I prefer one called a Venuti. I'll show you what it looks like. Those are great.
Awesome.
I've used a ton of those. And when you're using a decanter, you just want it to get access to as much air as possible. So that's really what the decanter is for.
And if you put it in the fridge after you're done consuming for the evening, is the time frame the same for both red and wine, that 2 to 4 days?
Yeah, it's just because of its once you remove the cork, you basically start a timer of oxygen getting into the wine, and it's gonna go bad, within 2 to 4 days, 1 week max. It's gonna go bad. It depends. You can use some of those products that they have to suck the air out or what have you. But honestly, there hasn't really been anything that I've found that is 100% successful at keeping it for any longer than that time. So the legs. I've been told to look at the legs of a wine. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the legs have nothing to do with overall quality of wine. It's
Interesting.
the alcohol content in the wine. So for those of you who have more of a sciencey background, it's what's called the Margoni effect. The legs of the wine, here's a picture. And the Margoni effect, I failed high school chemistry, so very basically, the Margoni effect is the evaporation of the alcohol mixed with the surface tension over the glass, and the water content in in your wine. And if you need to know more than that, just Google that. But yeah, it's about the alcohol content in the wine. That's where those legs come from, and it really has nothing to do with the quality of the wine. It's just the alcohol. So like the Zinfandel I've got right now, beautiful, nice legs, and that's because it's 15% alcohol. So my favorite wine gadgets, over here on the right is I don't know how to say it, Vinaturi or Vinurtri, whatever. It's really awesome. This is one of those things that will aerate just one glass, like Alyssa was talking about. So you can just pour one glass, you pour the wine into the top here. What I hate about this picture though is that they edited out the other hand, because you have to be holding it here. Sorry to ruin that for you if you just noticed, but you hold the Venuti over the glass, and then you pour the wine in the top, and it makes kind of like a sucking noise, like, and it aerates the wine as it drops down into the glass. Really cool. I've had one for years. They're awesome. If you're not giving a dinner party and you don't want to like pull out your crystal decanter, you know, because who wants to ever do that? You can just aerate 1 glass of wine or 2 glasses or whatever you're going to do, and it will do it. They also make them that stick into the top of the bottle, which I think is what you were talking about. Same thing. Those are great. The Coravin. So this is probably the only one, you know, gadget that can keep the wine longer. I don't know why you would want to be keeping your wine for so long. I mean, it doesn't last long in my house, but if you really want to preserve a nice bottle of wine, the Coravin is going to be your best friend. It's a touch expensive, but you basically, oops, oh no, I gotta go back. How do I go back? Hold on. Okay, sorry. We're almost done. That was the last slide I went to. The Coravin, so it uses argon gas. It inserts argon gas into the bottle of wine, and this like needle thing on it will stick right down through the cork, puncture the cork, and insert the argon gas. And at the same time, that pushes the wine out. So the argon gas is more dense than air. So that preserves the wine. And they say, Coravin's like website says that this method of preserving wine will work for up to 2 years. I don't know. I've never tried it. I've never tested it for longer than that. I've always gotten around to drinking the rest of it. But they're pretty cool. I do use them at the bar with like really, really expensive bottles so that we can pour 1 or 2 glasses of it without having to open the whole bottle. I love using slate if you're doing charcuterie or anything like that. Slates are really awesome. This is my favorite design for a decanter. Again, this is the exact model that I use at the bar. It's made out of like really thick glass. It has a big bottom to it that exposes a lot of wine to the air. And it's not made of like really thin glass that's going to break in your hands when you're trying to wash it or whatever. It's super like everyday. I love it. So that is the my recommendation for like an everyday decanter. I think I found them on Amazon for like $20. They are fantastic. I love them. You don't need to, I'm sure you've seen them before at Crate and Barrel or whatever. You don't need one of those like crazy dragon looking decanters or anything like that. That's just all, I don't know, that's just the crystal companies trying to get money out of you. It's not really necessary.
Michael, is there a proper technique to pouring into a decanter?
There is, but for the everyday sort of person, it doesn't really matter. You just dump it in there. You know, for proper service, like at a restaurant, yes, there is. You use the towel over your arm and you kind of I believe it's called gaslighting, which comes from the olden days when they would use a candle. For old wines, they have a tendency to settle in the bottom of the bottle. So you don't want to pour the entire bottle into the decanter. You're supposed to leave some left in the bottom just in case it has that sort of sediment to it. And so you're supposed to do it in front of a candle so that you can see that there's still some left in the glass bottle. But like I said, for you know, everyday kind of stuff, not really. You can kind of just dump it in there.
And there was a question earlier about why do you think, you know, aerating with oxygen is good for the wine at the beginning or like when you first open, and then it's also like the thing that causes its demise?
I'm not sciencey enough. So basically adding the oxygen to the wine, the best way to sort of describe it is that once the wine has settled and been in the bottle for a while, its molecules are kind of like sleeping, and they need to be awoken and brought back to life a little bit. So that's kind of what the aerating does for it. But yes, wine when exposed to oxygen will lead to its demise. You can add too much oxygen, I guess, and that's what's happening when it gets old and goes bad. It needs to be kept dark. That's why glass bottles are usually dark, to not get too much light in there and not get too much air in there as well, because light will make the wine go bad as well. So that's why wine bottles are dark. So just before we close, one of the feedback that I got from giving this presentation before was that people kind of wanted some recommendations for buying wine. Like if you're stuck in the wine aisle and you don't know what to go get. So this is a new slide for me. I just put this together for you guys, of kind of like, these are commercially available wines that you might find in your grocery store that I stand behind, that I really like. So for like in the under $10 section, Frontera. Have you ever seen Frontera wines? I love them. They're cheap. That's my go-to cheap wine. You know, it's Argentinian, I believe, either that or Chilean. I'm not sure, but they're fantastic. They're really good for cheap wine. Cavit, Robert Mondavi, 19 Crimes. In the 10 to 15 section, the Kendall Jacksons are usually good. I love Clos du Bois and Chateau Saint Michel as well. In the 15 plus, Hess Wines. Hess Wine is really, really good. They're out of California. There's tons of them. They make everything. They make Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, Cabernets, Zinfandels. They make it all. I really love those Hess wines. They're a little bit more pricey. They're in this $15 category, but well worth it. And I put some splurge wines here too. Belle Gloss, which is here. It's dipped in red wax. It is a very fancy wine, usually about $50, but it is so fantastic. And if you see it and you're celebrating something, this is celebration wine for sure. It's really amazing. It's a Pinot Noir, but it's not like a Pinot Noir you've probably ever had. It's really well aged and really juicy, jammy fruits, super fantastic. As well as Stag's Leap, if you've ever heard of them. They are a very famous winery out of Napa, usually about $60 or so. Also a good celebration wine. Granted, if you see these on like a fine dining wine list in a restaurant, they're going to be much, much more. And I also put in here, try a Sauterne. Sauterne is a French wine. It's a sweet wine. And they are just really interesting, very, very different. They usually range in price about $25 to $50, but when I was doing the research for this slide, they could be as much as $500. That just depends on vintage and producer, a bunch of different things. Okay, so kind of closing in there. This is it for me. I wanted to thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. I'm definitely still going to hang on here for more questions if you have them. But I am going to kind of leave this up here, my contact info. This is my cell phone and my email. I do a bunch of these Zoom wine tastings. I have other ones. If you're ever interested in doing a Zoom wine tasting with me, a different one or the same one with your group of colleagues, what have you, please reach out. I really love doing them. I can tailor them to you. And then also, here's my Venmo. I am a struggling sommelier trying to make it through COVID. That's why I'm doing these Zoom wine tastings. It's nothing I've ever done before. It's just my shifting, trying to make everything work and keep everything going and keep the lights on at the bar, which is behind me. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate. I hope you learned something today. I am gonna stick around for more questions. I'm sure there's something.
Yeah, if the group wants to unmute and ask some questions, that'd be great. There was one about recommendations for a dry red wine specifically. Do you have any recommendations?
Dry red, I mean, that's Cabernet Sauvignon to a T. So whatever you like. If you like today's Cabernet Sauvignon, stick with it. I love an area in California called Paso Robles. If you've heard of Paso Robles, they do really, really great Cabernet Sauvignons in Paso Robles.
It looks like someone has one from there, the Vineyard Drive.
What?
It looks like someone has a Vineyard Drive, it's called, from there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I love Paso. That's where those pictures I showed you in the beginning came from. Was I had a trip out to Paso Robles. I'm gonna stop sharing and come back to you. Hey. I went out to Paso to do they organized a huge trip for sommeliers and wine buyers from all over the country to come and experience the wines. We went to 14 different wineries in the span of 3 days. And nice. It was really, really awesome experience. I learned so much about Paso Robles.
How about recommendations for floral wines?
Floral wines? Good question. Like a Pouilly Fumé is really what's coming to mind. That's a French wine. Definitely Sauvignon Blanc for sure. Sauvignon Blanc has that typical vegetal grassy notes, but you can also find ones that have more floral to them.
And I will do a follow-up email, and I can include Michael's contact information, and we usually edit these events and do a nice recording, so I'll put that there too. But if you want to throw back up your contact slide.
Oh, sure.
Someone was asking about that.
Yeah, so send me an email if you want to do something. I have a bunch more of these sort of tastings that we do, and they're all mom approved. I do them all first with my mom and her group of girlfriends, and they give me feedback, and I make
awesome.
Better. So I am in the process of making one on Spanish wines that I will do with mom next week and see how that goes.
That's awesome.
I hope mom and her friends tip well. Because if they don't, the cousins can get together and do some of your testing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Does anybody have more questions? We could just hang out for a little bit. I did want to, for the Roosevelt alumni on the event tonight, I just want to pull up my screen here for. Actually, I'll just forward it over to you, but through the post-event email. But we have we have a presence on Facebook, LinkedIn for young professionals, and some upcoming events as well. We have a book club event coming up where it's a self-paced read, and we're reading Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek, and then we'll be hosting a moderated book club meeting in April. And then in May, we're hosting a week-long event for a working lunch series that's going to host our young professionals talking about a variety of topics, but a lot to do around how to break through and become a leader as a young professional in the workplace. So that'll be coming at you as well. And that's in May, mid-May. Yeah. And then, so connect with us through social media. We also are at alum@roosevelt.edu. If you have any ideas for young professional events or want to host something yourself, let me know. I'll send out a post-event survey about how you like this event, of course, with Michael's contact information and upcoming events as well. This is wonderful. I really enjoyed having everybody here today. And thank you so much, Michael, for sharing all your knowledge about wines. Well, I think that will wrap it up so everybody else can enjoy the rest of their evening and the rest of the bottle of the wine. But thank you so much for being here tonight, Michael. And I think everybody, there's a lot of comments about how much was learned. And yes, applause to you. Everybody can unmute and say thank you for your time and energy and expertise.
Thank you guys so much. It was fun. I appreciate it.
So go out and enjoy your wine, and continue to follow us and the events we have coming up for you over at Roosevelt, and have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Mike.
much,
That was
Michael.
awesome.
This was amazing.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you.